takes place between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m.
Events occur in real time.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to FBC Radio Live. It's Tuesday, December the 15th? 14th. No, 14th. Tomorrow's the 15th. So for those of you out there that need to refind health insurance, you have until tomorrow to do so. Just a reminder. And the reason I know that is, I put it off to the last minute myself. So I will have to do that by tomorrow to make sure that I can save maybe a little bit of cash on my health insurance that I so desperately use. No, I don't hardly ever use it, but it's always good to have just in case, John. Welcome to Tuesday, my friend. It's Cliff Kingsbury pile on day because I'm watching this game last night, John, and based on our conversations that we've had over the last like week or two, or maybe I've really kind of focused in on the bad coaching decisions we see every week in the NFL, and we had a few more of them last night, and it was just I was laughing the entire time because I it almost felt like Cliff was throwing me a bone for content to talk about stuff this morning because I thought the decision to go for it on fourth down in the third quarter was horrendous. I don't care what the result of the play would have been. I know people are pointing out, oh, well, if DeAndre Hopkins caught it, no, I don't care about the result. He could have caught it. It could have still been considered a poor decision. You know what I'm saying? Like just because the play worked doesn't mean it's a bad decision. If you throw into quadruple coverage and the receiver happens to catch the ball, well, you're not going to sit there and say, well, I should throw into quadruple coverage more, right? Because I completed it this one time. No, it's still a bad decision. You just happen to be fortunate. In this case, this is a bad decision that backfired, almost immediately. It drove me nuts because, again, the way it's evaluated is not I don't know, it's getting skewed both from, outside and inside the coaches room. I mean, I'm talking media and fans and of course how coaches make their decisions because there's this wave of in analytics we trust. Well, the analytics say this is the right decision. Well, the analytics say the success rate of I don't care. I now I'm sounding like Bill Cowher the other day or Terry or Phil Simms. I just don't care because again, we talk about numbers all the time and how in football you cannot account for every nuance in every situation because every situation is different. And I thought last night Cliff Kingsbury really handcuffed his team. They weren't playing great. Kyler Murray didn't have a great game yesterday, but he made it doubly worse by making it far more difficult for them to come back in that game. In a game they could have very well come back because think about it, John. You take the points in the third quarter with 5 minutes left. There's no at that point in the game. There's no reason to gamble your points away. Take the 3 points. Go down by 11 right away. They force the Rams to go 3-and-out, and then they go down and score a touchdown. So all of a sudden, you would have been down by 4 entering the fourth quarter. Instead, ultimately, you end up down by 10, and it's just again these decisions just they're it's just mind-boggling to me because again, how do you not trust a field goal kicker who had just hit two 53-yard field goals? And his name happens to be Matt Prater, who happens to be one of the better field goal kickers that we've seen in this league for a while. So it's to me it was idiotic, and there's no number of graphs and charts and dot placement graphs that can convince me otherwise, John. Did I talk you to sleep, John? Well, apparently we don't have John right now. We're gonna try to get him back. I don't know if he.
How's that? Any better?
Oh, that much better, much better.
There we go.
I thought maybe I bored you to death, so I was kind of
No,
worried.
you never bore me in. No, you know what?
Kind of worried.
I have I swayed in my chair and something disconnected, but we are back in business. Yeah, take the points when you have the opportunity, especially in the third quarter. I've never understood chasing the 2-point conversion so early in the game, or chasing points so early in the game because you have to at some point rely that your defense can make a stop. or that your offense can make a play and you can get back into the game organically. I don't think you have to be desperate with still, 25 minutes left in a football game. And Kingsbury is one of the many coaches in the league who came into the league as, an offensive mind who is to me just a glorified offensive coordinator. He's not necessarily a real head coach. His head is buried in the menu, right? I mean, it's the play sheet. And look, most of the coaches do that. Even Andy Reid, who I think is probably the second best head coach in the league after Bill Belichick, is more of an offensive guy. But I think he's smart enough to let the defense be run by Steve Spagnuolo, and he is after 20 odd years is learned how to coach the game, not necessarily just the offense. So I think that that's something that a lot of the highbrow, smart, good-looking head coaches, and man, Cliff Kingsbury is one good-looking dude. He looks just like Ryan Gosling. I mean, last night was Ryan Gosling coaching Arizona and Ryan Seacrest coaching the Rams. Both good-looking dudes who I don't even know if they add up to much more than Bill Belichick's age.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about that because I think Kingsbury's about 40 and McVay's like 36, so they're not much older than Belichick combined. But yeah, take the points when you can, stay in the game. But they really blew that game early, Ian. They were up 3-0, driving for another score, and Murray throws the interception on the deflection by Aaron Donald, who was all over the field last night. I mean, he looked like the best defensive player in football last night. If they even get a field goal there or a touchdown, they're up 6 or 10-0. That could be a completely different game. Matt Stafford has to play a little bit differently. After that interception, it's like the Rams calmed down and then took control. So I thought that was a big, big part of the game when they had an opportunity to really take control. At one point, they had run 25 plays to the Rams 6 plays, and it was only a 3-0 game. That's not a good spot.
And that's the thing. It's like when you're in a situation like that where I know the game, to say points were at a premium in a game that had over 40 points is kind of odd, but it felt that way, didn't it? It felt like there was a lot of points left on the field by both teams. So to your point, taking the points isn't a bad decision. Like this idea that, oh, well, 7 is greater than 3 or 6. Well, of course it is. But it doesn't mean that it's the right decision. Like, think about this, John. You can have two different scenarios. 4th and 1. You can have a very easy 4th and 1, and you can have a very long 4th and 1. I'm talking that the one that's just in front of the 2-yard line, essentially 2-yard line. So that can drastically change your decision making. It's the same thing. It does like people sit there and like I said, the analytics people will sit there and continue to hammer home. Well, the success rate versus this versus that. Well, no, I mean you're making it overly complicated. You have to read every situation in a vacuum. I don't care what happened in the first quarter. I care what's happening right now in the situation. So the situation with 5 minutes left in the third quarter, down by 14. Take the field goal, take the points, because you don't know how the rest of the 20 minutes are going to play out. And again, the amount of time, use that as to your advantage. Like you should be using the clock. You shouldn't be like, what's the point of extending it? Like, imagine they go for it, and then it's like, especially the second one in the fourth quarter, where it's like, they still weren't anywhere close to the goal line, so you would have had to still continue to bleed the clock. So you take the points, you rely on your defense, who they were doing an okay job. I mean, this game, the Rams weren't running away with it. They weren't perfect themselves. So to me, it's a you're putting one arm behind your team's back, because at the end of the day, I'm sitting there scratching my head. It's like 2:40 left, and they're down by 10. When two decisions to simply just kick the ball, and yeah, I know there's nothing guaranteed in football, but you're talking about almost a near certainty. Certainly the first field goal in the third quarter was about a extra point distance. I mean, we weren't talking a lot, but you also had you had a guy who hit 2 53-yard field goals in that game. It's just it was very puzzling. Even the end of the game, why they didn't go for the field goal to give themselves a better opportunity. And look, they got lucky with the onside kick. And that's the problem, John, because now people are going to see the onside kick and say, well, the Cardinals had a chance. Well, no. I mean, yeah, did they have a chance? Sure, technically. But it was their own dumb decision making that gave themselves basically a faint chance when they could have had a really good chance, and it would have, again, affected their decision making. It was just, if I was a Cardinals fan, I'd be really upset about what we saw last night.
Well, both Cardinal fans that are out there are going to be very upset.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing that every team that goes in to play Arizona brings their own crowd and has somewhat of a home field advantage. Although I thought the Cardinals crowd last night was pretty good, and they're a good team. Look, they're 10-3. They've had some nice wins over good teams. I mean, they won at LA against the Rams. They beat the Titans in week one. But their two standalone games were a Thursday night against Green Bay and a Monday night against the Rams at home, and they lost both of them. Green Bay did not have their receivers that night, and the Packers were able to win. And then against the Rams last night, 5 hours before the game, Jalen Ramsey and Tyler Higbee out with COVID. Your best cornerback and your starting tight end both out of the game. So the feeling was, okay, this is a chance for Arizona to really pretty much wrap up the division. Now it's only one game between the Rams and the Cardinals for first place in the West, and that's a huge difference because whoever finishes second in the West will be the 5 seed, and will have to go to most likely Dallas for a playoff game. If you win the West, you'll most likely be the 3 seed, and you'll host whoever, Minnesota or San Francisco, in a wild card game. Although right now, the way San Francisco's playing, I don't know if I'd want to play them at any point. But yeah, that was a big game last night. And again, Arizona's had those 2 standalone games. That's when we've all had a chance to watch them at home against teams that were somewhat wounded, and they lost.
Yeah, and that again, that's when it's going to be hard for them to overcome where they're at right now. First of all, they don't have a matchup against the Buccaneers, who are ahead of them, and of course, like you mentioned already, they've already lost to the Packers, and the Packers and the Bucks are the 1 and the 2 seed. So the path for the Cardinals to get back to that number 1 seed it's going to need a lot of help. In addition to them winning likely the rest of their games, they will have to do the 4 remaining games. So that's why last night's loss was devastating, and maybe it does give the Rams a little bit of confidence moving forward. I still feel like the Rams are a bit of a they're drawing people in to buy into them again, only to really fall flat. I don't know if they're maybe they need another year with OBJ and Matt Stafford to really put it all together. Like, I'm not completely writing off this Rams team. I just don't I don't think they have a lot of time to get it together. Like, they don't have the luxury of time necessarily. They may be a better team next year. I'm not buying this Rams team yet. Like, I know they looked good last night, and Matt Stafford looked pretty good, and maybe there's some knuckleheads out there that are desperate enough to try to tear Brady's MVP stock down that they'll throw Matt Stafford's name back into the mix. But no, I mean, I don't know. Good win for the Rams. I just don't know if this is necessarily me buying into them anymore. I still am cautiously. I want to bet money on the Rams. Let's put it that way. I just think there's too many other good teams in the NFC that the Rams just. I know they beat the Bucks, but I think a return matchup between those two teams, I don't think it's going to be as close.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see them beating Tampa or Green Bay, and in most cases, unless they tie Tampa Bay record-wise, the game would be in Tampa, and unless they surpass Green Bay record-wise, the game would be in Green Bay. I don't see the Rams going on the road and beating either of those two teams because of the edge at quarterback. The thing the Rams did last night, which I think they have to do more of, is run the football. And again, now I'm going to sound like Bill Cowher and Rex Ryan and Dave Wannstedt. Run the football. Well, you and I both agree that a running game is important. It doesn't have to be ground and pound a la the 2009 Jets or the Patriots last Monday night in that inclement weather, but it's good to have that because it does set up play action. It keeps the opposing pass rush off your quarterback somewhat. Sony Michel didn't have a great game last night, but 20 carries, 70 yards, enough to give Stafford the ability to play action pass, have some of those boot legs, which open up the field. And we do know he has a great arm, and he was able to hit Cooper Kupp and on that long touchdown pass, which was gorgeous, as was the one to Van Jefferson. So, yeah, that was important. That I think they got to get back to being more Sean McVay's team than Matt Stafford's team. But again, I put them in the second tier of the NFC with Dallas and Arizona, all 3 of those teams behind Green Bay and Tampa.
See, I don't know if that would be any better if it goes to Sean McVay's team. You know me. I'm not like I said. I'm not the biggest Sean McVay fan.
I know, but he did win a lot with Jared Goff at quarterback, so let's give him credit for that. And I'm not a huge Stafford fan. I get turned off when they go, well, he's as talented as Aaron Rodgers. No, he's not. But he's better than Jared Goff. So I do like McVay. Again, these guys, you know how we give these young quarterbacks time to grow? Maybe we should start doing that with the coaches. You know, I keep forgetting Sean McVay is like 8 years younger than Tom Brady.
Yeah. No, and
You know, so maybe he's going to grow as a coach. So
that's fair, but it's also, again, it's in much of our discussions on stuff like this is in response to the narrative, and again, it was
exactly.
it was almost as insufferable as a young quarterback. But you know, when
Yep.
people were talking about, well, you know, Sean McVay once passed so and so in a grocery store, so I think he's qualified to be an offensive coordinator, and it was just like, okay, like let's relax a little bit, and then look. You know my feelings on this. You know, like the over the top dramatic theatrics that go along with apparently being the Rams, where it's like, you know, I need a guy to keep me off the field, or you know, we're gonna have this big old, like, you know, draft room with all the you know, snazzy, like, little bells and whistles and all that stuff, and it's just like, to me, it's just such a it's you know what I mean?
You're such an old man, Ian.
I know. I feel
you
like
act
it.
older than I do.
I know.
Like,
well,
give
look.
me my clicker. I'm changing the channel.
Look, hey, so be it. So be it. I like
Southern
what I like.
California. You see his girlfriend.
Yeah, I don't
Gorgeous.
care.
You see Cliff Kingsbury. No, I mean, these guys are, you know, they're feeling good about themselves. You know,
well,
I
mean,
the
based
NFC
on
West
what?
is officially based on. I mean, they're
some good
coaching
regular
in the
season
NFL.
wins.
Well, they're coaching in the NFL, making big bucks. You know, they're full of themselves.
There's 32 of those guys,
That's,
and sometimes
that's
more.
Not many
actually.
of them, though. There's not that many more. I mean, that's a pretty good position.
No, I know. Look,
I mean, do we still want to consider Urban Meyer a head coach in the NFL?
God,
I think
no.
he's packing his bags as we speak. I would think.
I don't think he ever
silly
unpacked.
White jacket.
I don't think he ever unpacked. I mean,
never a fan of that guy. Never a fan of that guy. What happened at Ohio State when they were covering up, his assistant coach spousal abuse, and you know, he turned a blind eye to that. We know what happened in Florida. That was like the wild, wild west. I think
that's the thing. I don't even know if we know everything that happened in Florida, and that's the thing.
Probably not. We never do with these schools. I will give Nick Saban credit for that. We don't hear much about Alabama, right? I mean, you don't hear much. He seems he runs a pretty tight ship, but who knows? I'm sure. Look, if you're a player at Alabama and you do something wrong, it's probably going to get covered up. I mean, in Tuscaloosa, those guys are gods.
Oh, like, yeah, but again, I think. But that's the thing. I think Nick Saban nips that in the butt. I think the way he runs everything prevents situations like that from happening, as opposed to Urban Meyer, where it's like, you know, wild west with him. So, yeah, I mean, trust me, I was surprised I haven't brought up Urban Meyer since I've been knocking on coaches lately. But no, look, we may have even sat there and said, like, there's no way this is going to work. You know, when he got hired, and it was really a head scratching decision as it is. And it's like, I don't see how you can possibly bring him back next year. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, I mean, like, how long can you ride the wave of being a first round pick? I'm not trying to like knock him down, but like at a certain point, you have to sit there and say, like, he's just not playing well. I mean, you throw 4 interceptions the other day. He has 8 touchdowns on the season. Like, this is a guy that, you know, has been the generational quarterback for the last 3 years we've heard about him.
Oh yeah, and he was the next Andrew Luck.
Yeah, the next Andrew
Manning,
Luck.
John Elway.
Andrew
Those
Luck.
Were the 4 guys.
Andrew Luck came in and turned around a pretty dire situation with the Colts, and won despite limitations like Jacksonville has. Now, again, Jacksonville, I don't think anyone is saying they're in a better position than any team in the NFL right now. But I think that gets overblamed for the struggle, because I think people, it's Jacksonville, he'll get out of it. Well, I don't know. I mean, I've seen some pretty bad play, and if you're Jacksonville, you desperately want to get someone in there that can handle him and help him grow as a quarterback.
My question with Trevor Lawrence, and I think we talked about it in training camp, and I like him. I think he's a sensational player. But I want to see if he's going to be able to be that elite quarterback, and I still have questions. It's a very, very small event, and sometimes you could learn a lot about quarterbacks with just strange things. He was at a press conference in training camp back in August, and there was a fly that was bothering him, right? And he let that bother him so much that he got so distracted at the press conference. Now that's a little thing, and it was made fun of the next day. And I'm like, if a fly is going to really get him upset at a press conference, like to the point where he looked like he wanted to walk away, what the hell is going to happen when Aaron Donald's breathing down your neck? You know what I'm saying? So we've all seen draft day, and the quarterback was talented and all that stuff, but no one went to his birthday party because he wasn't a leader, and the guys on the team didn't like him, and once he got hit, he checked out of the game. Those are the questions you have to find out about quarterbacks. And I looked at that and said, that's not a good sign. I don't know. For that position, anywhere else, just you and I in life, no big deal. But
you're preaching to the choir.
That was something. Yeah, that was something I said. I said, geez, that's a little odd. That a fly, and he was like, "Oh God, fly! Give me it." Like, I mean, if it was a bee and he was allergic to it, I'm all with you. Because who the hell wants that to happen? And next thing you know, you need an EpiPen.
Yeah.
But I was watching that going, man, that's got this kid kind of rattled. A fly at a press conference. Von Miller's coming at you, or Aaron Donald, or J.J. Watt. I mean, what the hell are you going to do with that?
Well, yeah, trust me. Like you know how much I value the mental aspect of playing the quarterback position. I think it's probably overall more important than any one physical trait. Now, again, it's important for you to be both mentally strong and accurate.
Right.
But I think at the end of the day, that's one of the reasons why I do like Mac a lot, is that he seems to have that nonchalant, not in a negative way, but in a, okay, I'm going to throw what could be a backbreaking pick six, but I'm just going to put it in and just move on to the next play.
Right.
That's all you can control. And that's always been the Brady mentality. It's like, there's nothing you can do to change what happened. So why dwell on it? Because it's only going to hurt you. It's never positive. So, and
do you think Mac has a little Eli Manning in him? Like, and I think, look, Eli Manning, whether he's a Hall of Fame or not, that's a whole other debate. But the guy did win 2 Super Bowls, and he kind of had that kind of aw shucks, like,
maybe
mentality,
the facial
like that.
Expressions are
a little bit.
It's
kind
similar,
of like,
but
oh, geez, But in terms of, I think I think Mac is a little more careful with the football.
Yeah,
Eli has a tendency of throwing some really bizarre interceptions, because he did the biggest thing you can't do as a quarterback, is throw late across the middle.
Yeah.
Which is that's cardinal sin number one. Peyton didn't do that, but Eli did. But you know what I'm saying? Kind of like he seems just like the good old boy next door, but really he's pretty smart.
No, I
think Eli had a higher Wonderlic than Peyton, believe it or not, whatever that means.
Well, it doesn't mean anything. Ryan Fitzpatrick had like
those
a 48. So.
Yeah. Sometimes those high Wonderlicks sometimes can be a turnoff too. It's like they overthink things. Like, keep it simple, stupid sometimes.
To your Eli man, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Was I don't necessarily want to say that, because, and it's not a knock on either. Just Eli was far more reckless with the football. Where I think even early on, Mac Jones seems to have a pretty good understanding of keeping it safe. Now, again, maybe that means like, the aggressiveness will come in time, but I'd almost feel like I'd rather them be safe early and learn how to be aggressive, as opposed to just, we're just gonna wing it down there. And like, sometimes it's like, hey, you know what? Sometimes it works. It really does. I mean, sometimes it works, and you can build an entire reputation off of doing that one season. But the sustainability of it long term, I think is tough, because, again, if you're a young quarterback and you come in, you have this great success just hucking the football down the field. Well, guess what? You're going to think, well, pretty easy, right?
Sure.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Well, again,
get into bad habits.
Exactly. And it's the NFL. Sometimes it takes, it's like baseball. Sometimes you get to that third time through the rotation and the pitcher's got a tell on you and he's really starting, or vice versa. Maybe you finally got the tell on the pitcher after time. It's like, sometimes it just takes time to figure out the best way to attack certain things. And like I said, I feel like, just playing the learn from your mistakes mentality. Like, I've seen some of that out there. Like, oh, this is how he's going to learn. No, he's going to learn, and talking about Trevor Lawrence, by protecting the football. Like, you don't learn by throwing a ton of interceptions and consistently throwing the ball. That just builds terrible habits. So, to me, it's tough. And, I'd worry if I'm a Jacksonville fan, because, I know it's like, oh, the kid's young, but, with quarterbacks especially, look at Ryan Leaf. I mean, we're
Oh,
talking 25
man.
years ago almost, but how quickly and I have a lot of admiration for him now based on, again, just how he's handled a lot of the issues he's had over his
Turned his
life
life
and it
around,
turned his
right.
life around and everything like that. But, he was, I don't want to say weak mentally in the sense that, in the football sense. I'm not speaking about his life
Mhm.
mental issues. Again, that's everyone has their issues, and I'm not speaking about that. But I'm talking about, specifically in the sport vacuum, it was very weak and fragile.
Mhm.
So as soon as
Yep.
that confidence went, that was it. That was it. Now he may be the most extreme case of that, but it doesn't mean that even the most talented players, because let's not forget, there are people out there that were saying, "Hey, maybe the Colts should take him over Peyton Manning." Um,
Right.
Obviously, hindsight makes that seem ridiculous now, but it wasn't as ridiculous back then. So it's important that Trevor Lawrence not get stuck in a situation. First of all, he has to improve his play. He can't
He does.
he can't be
Yep.
absolved of all these mistakes based on just his situation. However, his situation isn't doing him any favors, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and he's got Brian Schottenheimer and Darrell Bevel as his coaches, which, you know, good luck with that. I'm not huge fans of those guys. But yeah, he's got to be better at what he does. Um, so, I think he's wildly talented. We've seen what Mac has done so far this year has been exciting. I like Justin Fields a lot among the rookies too, and I think there's plays he makes that you scratch your head, but he's a baby. I think
Mhm.
he's going to learn. But he seems, when I look at that, it's like, are these guys going to work at it? Are they going to work at their craft to get better at it? I think Mac's going to do that. I think Justin Fields is going to do that. Trevor Lawrence, we don't know much about him. He's playing in Jacksonville. I mean, I
Mhm.
honestly, I've seen Jacksonville play once this year. It was a Thursday night game against Cincinnati, and I'll see them play the Patriots in a couple of weeks. That's about it. It's almost like with Arizona, right, Ian? I mean,
Mhm.
as good as they've been, like, how many times have we really seen them? They're never even in the 425 window. They're in the 405 window, which is
Yeah.
just like a regional game, right? So they're not, I mean, the Packers have been on in Boston in this market. The Packers have played 13 games this year. 12 have been on TV.
That's
I
crazy.
mean, again, that's a huge brand. Um, Packers and Cowboys. Like, Packers and Cowboys are on nationally like every week.
Mhm.
Like, you just can't avoid them. And the Patriots as well, and Brady with Tampa now, and Kansas City. Those are like the five teams that you're going to just see all the time, which is, a testament to how good those teams are, but also the brands they have. So, yeah, the, the Trevor Lawrence thing, that I just go back to that thing, and I'm like, man, that's not a good sign. And it's a little thing,
Mhm.
but I think when they're evaluating talent, there are those little things. You brought up a great point, Ian, the Ryan Leaf, Peyton Manning discussion back in 1998. It was pretty close, but I guess the Colts made the decision when they interviewed both of these guys. Peyton Manning showed up 15 minutes early in a suit and a tie, like, looking like a CEO, a
Mhm.
young CEO, and Ryan Leaf was like late, like, he showed up late to the meeting. He was, disheveled. He wasn't properly dressed the way you'd want a young CEO to be. And I think at that point, I believe it was Topple was running the Colts, that we're taking the guy that looks the part. I think Matt Ryan was the same way 10 years later. He showed up to the meeting with the Atlanta Falcons in a suit and a tie. It's just being respectful and looking the part. And I'm not saying you have to, do that, but look like the guy that's going to take command of the franchise, because you're the face of the franchise in most situations, and you're putting a 22 or 23-year-old kid in as the face of a billion-dollar industry. That's tough to take. So a lot of that stuff you talk about is dead on.
Yeah, and look, I mean, this isn't the same for every football player. We're
Mhm.
obviously, I think there's some positions where you need to be more mentally strong, like smart. And again, I'm
Right.
not I'm not trying to diminish other players.
No, no.
Smart, like I'm talking football sense. Like sometimes
Right.
you need more of your mind than your body. Other positions you need
Yes.
more of your body than your mind necessary. So,
Right.
but with the quarterbacks, to me, it's so important to get the mind. That's why, like when I don't care about how fast you can run. I don't care like how many different arm angles you can throw. Like
Mhm.
Brady throws essentially the same. I mean, he'll switch it up every once in a while, but he throws the same exact way every single time. And give me the
Yeah.
consistency over anything because guess
Works
what?
pretty good.
His receivers know how to catch his balls. So,
Pretty good work. Pretty good.
Yeah,
Worked out all right for
yeah,
22
it's
years.
worked out pretty. It's worked out pretty good for him. He's only
But okay,
he's only completed more passes than anyone in
right.
the history of football. So
He's going to get to the point where he's going to have completed more passes than anyone's ever thrown in the history of football. He's starting to lap the field a la like Wayne Gretzky
well,
and Will
and this
Chamberlain,
is the thing. Like he's getting to the point now, and like I obviously heading into this weekend and certainly after Sunday have been very much behind the Tom Brady for MVP case. I think it's all but wrapped up for him because again, I just don't see the amount of play both from him and his competition elevating and declining enough to close that gap. And look, I know everyone's Aaron Rodgers had a great game the other night, all that stuff, but and this is why short-term memory, or at least maybe biases get in the way. Tom Brady's been doing that all season. Like Aaron Rodgers had a great four touchdowns, 300, a high 300s, right, something like that.
Yeah.
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 Brady's had like 3 games like that where he's gotten most of that in a half. So like I know people are like, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers is making a charge, making a charge, making a charge." No, like, look, you're just making things more difficult.
He's really the only competitor that Brady has right now for the MVP.
Oh yeah,
I think. I mean,
yeah.
because we've heard about Kyler Murray. Well, that last night didn't help him, and Matt Stafford lost 3 in a row. That didn't help him, and Lamar has fallen off the tracks, and Mahomes, other than against the Raiders, has been an average quarterback the last 2 months. So it's basically Brady.
Don't ask
and
Nick
Rodgers.
Wright. Nick Wright says Mahomes is breathing down his neck, but I'm like, well, are they going to play the Raiders for the next month?
Yeah, that'd be good. And
I brought it up.
High safety.
Well, I brought it up yesterday. I mean, this isn't just what's your comp? Well, no, they played the Raiders twice and scored over 89 points in 2 games.
Right.
The other like 5 or 6 games during that stretch, they only scored more than 22 once, and often it was 19 or 30. So that's concerning. If you want to gloss over that, be my guest. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and get up on here and say, "Oh, this is the most dangerous Chiefs team of all time," according to Nick Wright. No, that's silly. I mean, are they a really good team? Absolutely. Did they go to the Super Bowl? Sure. I mean, we both agree that I think the Patriots and the Chiefs are the top 2 teams right now, with the Titans kind of in limbo, in purgatory. Right. Like, are they really good or are they not? I don't know. I guess we'll find out if Derrick Henry comes back. But yeah, so it's to me, it's Brady's award to lose. It's getting to a point now, and I know everyone's just kind of like, oh, these records will be broken, especially with the extra game. But like, I don't know. I don't know. Like even with I mean, look, everyone's going to sit there and say, oh, well, look at these elevated passing numbers. Well, but, okay, but like to me, I don't like the longevity. People just gloss over. Like people just say, "Oh yeah, no, every quarterback's just going to play 22 plus years in the league now."
Right?
No.
Yeah, that's normal. Right? Yeah.
So,
and not just play 22 years. He'll be the MVP in his 22nd year, and that's a little bit different than this guy's just hanging on and he's compiling stats and whatever. I mean, like, look, I love Justin Herbert. I think he could be the best quarterback in football at some point. Is he going to play 20 years and play at that level? But probably not. I mean, who the hell's done that in the past? Other than Brady. I mean, I know Breeze played till he was 40, but he wasn't the same quarterback as he was. This guy is getting better. Like, I mean, now he's starting to run for first down. I mean, he had 3 runs for first downs the other day.
Yeah, and it's
I don't know. Well, he's gonna start returning punts next week for all we know.
Well,
which actually he should help Green Bay with their punt return game because they can't even field a punt. So maybe Rodgers should go back there and just catch the ball, fair catch.
Well, I don't want him to hurt his big little toe. It's gonna get him all,
He's fine. He's fine.
Yeah, that's my point. That's my point. He's fine.
He loves drama. You know that.
Yeah, he loves drama, so he can pass the buck when inevitably they fail to reach their final destination.
Then they're reaching it this year, though. They're reaching it.
Well, I wouldn't. There's certainly. Well, yeah. I think your true thoughts came out in that last comment. That
they better reach
it. Yeah.
Come on, Aaron. You got to get there.
I mean, they really. Yeah, they really don't. I mean, they have. Look. This is the team type of team that critics of Tom Brady out there guarantees win Super Bowls. You know what I mean? Like the team
Mhm.
with if you have a top 10 defense, you win a Super Bowl. Never mind the fact that at least 9 teams out of those top 10 every single year don't win the Super Bowl. Whatever.
Right.
It's such a like I love it, but I hate it because like I hate the some of the discourse that has been created because of Brady's existence and what he's accomplished in his career. But I also love it because it's completely turned people's minds into mush when it comes to evaluating
Right.
quarterbacks, and especially when evaluating quarterbacks against Tom Brady and evaluating Brady himself. It brings me
Yeah.
joy
We
and frustration at the same time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've said this for I mean, last year to me just put it out of reach. That it's like stop comparing anybody to him. Like it's just not even fair. It's not fair to him, and it's not fair to who the hell you're comparing to him at this point. That's why when we have these discussions, it's like let's just put him aside and then
Yeah.
start the debate among everyone else. Because I mean, and I don't really know of a player in any sport who was already considered the greatest player in his sport, who was still playing and still, you can make the case, is still the best player in his sport.
Mhm.
Like Jordan in '98, did we think he was the greatest player ever? Probably. I mean, it was just, but it was still, he won his sixth title, then he went away for 3 years. Like Gretzky, yeah, I guess you could make a case that Gretzky was the guy, but usually it's like after the fact, or they become the greatest, and
Well,
then like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and then the last 5 years they're good, not
well, and
great. This guy is still there.
we've talked about Gretzky before, and like I think he might be the closest to that living greatest era. Even though again, there's plenty of debate even now if you want to have it. Although to me, it's like it's hard to deny the success and the individual success as well, team and individual success. But even
Right.
in Gretzky's case, after he won his Stanley Cup, he didn't win again for last Stanley Cup
He played 10
1990.
years, right?
Was it
Yeah.
1990 he
No,
won? So
he
yeah, there was
wasn't.
another
No,
almost 10
he wasn't
years or
on that
so.
team, Ian.
Oh yeah, right,
He
right, yeah.
wasn't on
So
the no.
yeah, so you're right, you're right. So it was
And
80,
88,
88.
88, he won
Yeah,
his fourth
yep,
cup, and then he played another dozen years, didn't win, and in 1990, Edmonton won without Wayne Gretzky. I mean,
yeah.
that would be like it would almost be like if Brady went to Tampa last year, lost in the divisional round, and then the Patriots won the Super Bowl this year. That would be similar to what
Yeah,
Gretzky went
exactly.
ahead and did. So I
Fortunately,
mean,
Brady went out and
Messier,
just won a Super Bowl
he
last
just did
year.
it the
So
first year. Yeah, I mean, it's like this is not even normal. I mean, I know LeBron goes to new places, and obviously we know I love LeBron. LeBron goes to new places and wins titles. It takes him his second year.
Mhm.
He did it in Cleveland, Miami, and in LA. The second year there, he got it done. I mean, not that they weren't good his first year, just they fell a little short. This guy went in his first year and won it and won 3 games on the road to get to the Super Bowl.
and
So
it,
yeah, I mean, and I make the case too that I think Lemieux's the greater player than Gretzky. I think most people wouldn't, but most people just other
look,
than inside of
I love Mario Lemieux. I do think. I
it's a
mean,
weird discussion.
it's
The only reason I say that, this is the reason I say it, is that old argument that Lemieux could do everything Gretzky could do, but Gretzky couldn't do everything Lemieux did. Lemieux did average more goals per game than Gretzky. They averaged the same amount of points per game. They averaged 2 points per game, but Lemieux averaged 0.75 goals per game, where Gretzky averaged 0.6 goals per game.
mhm.
I've always valued goals more than assists in hockey because you get 1 goal and 2 assists on every goal. So I always value goals a little bit more when we're talking points. So that's why. And again, the size factor. I mean, the guy's 6'5", 230 when he was playing, and
Yeah.
they
I mean,
both kill penalties. I mean,
it's certainly a good I mean,
it's a good discussion, but again, I'm in the minority there. But
yeah.
I'm generally in the minority in these discussions anyway. I've got LeBron greater than Michael Jordan, so yeah, that's good. But Gretzky, you're right. I mean, he didn't win after he left Edmonton, and they did win after he left.
Mhm.
So that's I mean, what? No, I've said this, and I'm not just getting brownie points with you. We can make a case, especially if he wins another Super Bowl this year, that this guy is the greatest athlete in the history of American team sports.
Yeah,
I don't think that's far fetched. I don't
like
think it's like a crazy argument.
the gold standard for quote unquote winning is Bill Russell.
Yes,
He's not I mean, we're not talking about an absurd gap. I mean, 11 championships versus 10 or versus 7. Uh,
If he gets 8, yeah, I mean, he's even that much
and
closer.
again, I think we would all agree that winning a Super Bowl is far harder than certainly,
Right,
winning even a NBA title in this. I mean, how many times do we have teams that go win 3 in a row or that? I mean, it happens in the
right.
NBA. That's just how the sport works. So it's not to diminish the accomplishment, but like, I mean, the ultimate like winner in team sports, Bill Russell. Brady's
Right.
not that far off.
Not
And
that
it's
far
and
behind.
yeah, and it's absurd to think about. Not to mention the knock on Bill Russell was, I mean, like, look, anyone who I'm sure that was alive and old enough to be able to watch him would talk about how great he was, and he was a great player. But like, I don't think he was ever considered at the greatness level in terms of individual ability. In addition to the way, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah,
Yeah, because
people
he had
people
Will
say,
Chamberlain
yeah,
breaking scoring records while he
exactly,
was playing,
exactly.
and when he faced Wilt, and this is where the historians, the ones who really know what they're talking about, get it right, and the ones who don't get it wrong. Chamberlain had big games against Russell. I mean,
Mhm.
everyone makes it out to sound like Russell shut Chamberlain down. That wasn't the case. He contained him, which is all you could do with Will Chamberlain. It's just that Russell had a better team for
Yeah.
most of those series. And again, football's one and done.
Mhm.
Basketball, you've got 7 games. You can lose game one, or you can be like LeBron and get down 3 games to 1 against Golden State and come back. You can't do that in football. It's one and done. And this,
Well,
this
you
guy
can go
came
down
back from a
28 to
25-point.
3 and come
Well, that's
back and
exactly
win.
you were reading my mind, Ian.
Yep.
I mean, you get down 28-3 in the third quarter and win that game, but you don't have a chance to say, okay, we got to spend a couple of days and analyze what the hell
Regroup,
we
yeah,
did wrong for the first 2.5
re-strategize, yeah.
quarters. Yeah, it's like on the fly. And then baseball's tough because look, Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds, Willie Mays, I think those are the 3 greatest players ever. But you can't tie that into winning, really, because Yogi Berra was the greatest winner in baseball history and also a phenomenal player. I think people forget that he was an all-time great player. They think of this short guy who had all the malaprops, but Yogi Berra was a great player. He's the greatest winner in baseball history. No one thinks he's the greatest player ever. Hockey, Gretzky, Lemieux, or no one won like I did. Now, if this is a maddening thing, if Brady wins the Super Bowl this year, he will have 8. He would have won as many championships as Gretzky, Lemieux, and Orr combined, who are considered the
Yeah.
3 greatest players ever. So I'm serious when I say this. We're making a case that this guy is the greatest athlete in the history of American team sports because he checks all the boxes, right? I mean, he's got the longevity of like Kareem. He's got the ability like LeBron to just show up in a new organization and they become instant winners. He's got the just a winning quotient of Jordan and Russell. It's like Jesus. I mean, who does all these things?
Well,
It's absolutely it's insane.
and if you
I mean, I know they're making a movie about Kurt Warner, but I mean, I want to see the Brady movie.
yeah, well, there might be a few. Man in the Mirror is going on right now, but they're going to have to keep
Yeah,
updating these things because he keeps going to Super Bowls. Like a 10-part series seems like a nice even number, and I'm assuming that they went into it thinking, oh, this will be perfect. But
this is over. Yeah.
yeah, think about it just specifically this season. If he were to win the Super Bowl, based on what we know already, we can assume. Let's assume he wins the MVP. Okay,
Yeah.
so that means he would win the MVP, win the Super Bowl, becoming the first person to do so since Kurt Warner did it in '99,
Right.
and of course win back-to-back Super Bowls for the second time in his career, becoming again
Right.
the first person to do it since he did it in 2003,
Right.
2004. So the implications or the result or the what's going to happen if he does win this year, I think to your point, is almost going to make the undebatable. Like the great thing
Yeah.
about
No.
sports
Seriously.
is
Yeah.
most things are subjective. So
Hmm.
there's some nuance. There's some. He's getting to the point where it's not subjective anymore. Like if you say someone else is the greatest player ever, you're just wrong.
Hmm.
That's not my opinion. That's just at the point now where it's
No.
almost just a fact. There's no like what are you going to argue? How are you going to argue against it? Well, Aaron Rodgers is great, but I mean, Jesus, like eh,
No.
we're,
Yeah.
we're,
No. No.
we're
I
talking
mean,
8 times as many Super
oh
Bowls,
yeah.
10 times
No.
as many appearances. So again, it's
Well, hopefully this year it's only 3.5 times as many.
yeah,
That's a big difference, isn't it? If Aaron gets the number 2, that'll be nice. But in terms of the history of football, to me, I always said it was Jim Brown, but I've changed my mind and put Brady at number 1, Brown at number 2. Again, because when Brown was playing, the running back was a dominant player.
Yeah.
Now the quarterback's a dominant player, so you can make that case. To me, that's the argument. And as much as I love Jim Brown, I mean, again, I never saw him play live, but I, have a computer and will go on YouTube and watch like full games because I apparently have no life. But he obviously was by far the most dominant guy of his era, and he could have played today. I mean, he's
sure.
a guy 6'2", 230 with that. I mean, he would have been, Derrick Henry with more speed and a better pass catcher. But Brady's eclipsed him now. He's in his 22nd year. Like that's the thing that like. Kareem had this incredible longevity in the NBA, but Kareem wasn't the best player in the league in his last 5 years. This guy's in his 22nd year.
I could argue
he's
never had a bad season either. He's never had a mediocre season.
No,
and this was something I was talking about at the time in 2019, and people were railing on Brady. And in hindsight, especially after watching last season, you actually sit there and like, wow, that 2019 season from Brady was actually incredibly impressive considering the circumstances. Right? I mean, that was we could sit there and argue that 2019 for the Patriots was one of their probably two worst teams. And I always say that 2009 team was just it wasn't a lack of talent. It was just a bad mix of just everything. And then you factor in, Brady trying to come back from that torn ACL. It wasn't a great team. They still made the playoffs. And that's the high standard that he set, that his worst season. And maybe I'm glossing over 2002 a little bit. 2002, he had a really good
the league in touchdown passes.
He had a really good individual season. I think this team. Yeah, and guess what? Guess what? His second season in the league, he threw more touchdowns than Patrick Mahomes did in his second season in the league. And we're talking about 17-year difference apart. So
apparently, you don't have much of a life. You're looking up stats like I do.
I don't. Trust me, I don't. I don't leave.
We're both up with the cats. You're up with the cats.
Yeah, I'm up with the cats. Sitting on my computer, all that fun stuff. But all right, though, we do have to go though. If not, we're going to be sitting here talking forever, and we're going to very, very much tune people out. But we'll be back tomorrow or tomorrow or Thursday to break down or preview what we have coming up. We have Thursday night football, obviously between the Chargers and Chiefs. That's going to be a lot of fun, and we got 2 Saturday night games this week. I like it. One of which is the Patriots Saturday night against the Colts. So that's going to be fun. Have a great day, folks, and we'll talk to you then.